What's up, everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Eric. I'm a professional photographer that is based out of San Francisco, and I am primarily shooting film now, which is why I decided to launch this YouTube. And I have some pretty exciting news. So I ended up buying a brand new point and shoot camera, which is something that I don't typically do because I typically find all of my, vintage or point and shoot cameras at thrift stores, but lately here in the Bay Area it's been a complete nightmare, which is why I have not been able to find anything. So I ultimately decided to get this one brand new from a local camera shop here. This right here is the Reto ultra wide and slim 22mm film camera. It shoots 35mm film, and the main reason I got this camera was just because of the size. It is really tiny and it fits in the palm of my hand, which makes it the perfect go-to camera or just take anywhere camera. I can put this in my hoodie, I can put this in my back pocket, and I have a film camera wherever I go whenever I need it, which is pretty great. It's very light. Once you load film in this, it weighs around 3.5 ounces, which is virtually nothing compared to some of the other cameras I have. You won't even feel this on you if you have it in your fanny pack or backpack or whatever. It's just a cool little camera just to have around, which is one of the main reasons I got it. It has very basic functionality, which is really great, very easy to use. And ideally, if you have no film experience at all, you've never picked up a film camera, this camera may be a really good option for someone that's never shot film. All you have to really do is just pick a film, load it, and that's it. There's really no fiddling around with settings, shutter speeds, f-stops. This camera does everything for you. It pretty much just shoots in auto mode, I guess, if you would like to say that. So I think that's actually a really cool thing, the fact that I won't have to, take out a big SLR or anything crazy like that, and I can just take this and, shoot day-to-day things. Does this camera have drawbacks? I mean, absolutely. For $30 US, you are missing some pretty key fundamental things, and that first one, and the most important one, is an internal flash. This camera does not have any internal flash, so if you're planning on taking this on a night trip somewhere or some area that may be dark, you're not going to have that access to an internal flash, which is a huge disappointment. But again, that I think results on why it's so small. There's no battery components on here and no electrical components at all, so you don't really have to worry about a battery dying, which can be a pro and a con for missing that feature. And I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's really nothing else to it. This camera is focus free. You just shoot whatever you need and then just fire away. And the other thing that's really cool is, again, that wide angle. When I put my eye to this viewfinder, this entire room fits inside of this camera. And that could either mean that I have a really small room or that this camera just has a nice wide angle lens, which now has me thinking. But other than that, I think it really just has everything that you need to get started in a quick and easy, if you're trying to get into film photography quick and easy, I think this camera will more than likely do. I definitely want to get this camera loaded and just kind of experiment to see what we can get, which is what we're going to do today. The other thing that's really cool about this camera is where they put the rewind knob. So they decided to put the rewind knob on the bottom left. Typically, they're always on the upper right. So it's really interesting to see a design where they put it in a different area. Now, the size is both a good thing and a bad thing. This camera is really tiny, so if you have big hands or big fingers, you're going to have the issue of potentially accidentally putting your finger in front of this lens, which is going to result in some pictures having either your thumb or your finger on it, and that may not be good. So I got to make sure that when I take this camera out that I'm being calculating and not putting my finger over this lens, because that's going to be a really bad look for the overall images. Talking about the build quality of this camera, for $30, I feel like this camera should cost more, like $15. It feels really, really cheap. The plastic on here is giving me that Holga vibe, which I don't really like. I don't like Holga pictures at all. But the good thing is the camera is light sealed, so I'm really hoping not to see any horrible light leaks coming in through my images and kind of ruining them. So I think that's going to be really nice. And then overall, I'm not seeing any other issues, but I think if I drop this, it's going to break. And it's something that I'm worried about because I'm probably one of the most clumsy people around. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to load this camera with some just standard black and white film. And we're just going to shoot around the around San Francisco. I'm probably not going to go too far because it's been kind of wild in San Francisco with some of the robberies. Not that anyone's going to rob me for a cheap plastic camera, but you never know. So let's get this camera loaded. I decided to go with the Kentmere Pan 400. Not really my favorite film, but you know what? Let's just try it out, see what we get, and let's hit the streets of San Francisco and see what we can get. What's up everyone and welcome back. So I hope you liked the video. I definitely wanted to do a quick dive into how I felt shooting this camera and just going over some of the overall images to just kind of go over the things I noted. So I did end up putting my finger in front of the camera in these images here, as you can see. Such a disappointment because I was looking forward to both of these images, and yeah, my finger's on the side of them, which sucks. And then I also dropped the camera, which I knew was going to happen. And you can see that in this picture here. It snapped a picture of my shoe. And long behold, I ended up breaking the camera. On the bottom portion here, I broke that button on the bottom. It just popped out. And I just took that as a complete L and let it go. I'm not even going to bother to chase after that little thing. But yeah, other than that, I was honestly anticipating the camera to kind of explode open and the film just fly out into the street, and surprisingly it did not do that. I just lost that bottom button that helps you kind of rewind the film, and yeah, that sucks. But the overall view, the overall image quality for this camera is very similar to what I expected. You know, heavy vignetting on the edges. I noticed that when you shoot this in portrait mode, you do get a little bit of better results. When you shoot this in a more landscape mode, you do get a lot of that vignetting on the sides, since these cameras are very center focused when it comes to shooting, so you're not going to really have a very clear image as if you were shooting out of like a glass lens. There were like two pictures that I looked at that gave me that weird Holga vibe, and again, I'm not sure if it's my developing technique, but I didn't notice this with any of the other images on the roll, so it really has me to believe that it's probably something to do with the camera. But this image here has these really odd streaks in it. This image here, when I shot it, there wasn't really that much sun, but looking at this image, I could see that it's fairly blown out on the edges and on the top. So I definitely feel like maybe the wide angle lens got the sun, which resulted in this really odd flaring. And overall, I mean, this camera for $30, you are not going to expect it to act like a $100 SLR or maybe a $100 point and shoot. But for maybe somebody that doesn't want to get that weird Holga look in their images, maybe this might be a bit of a step up if you want to, you know, be able to do that. But again, this camera for $30, I wasn't really expecting it to do a whole miracle. But the images are pretty cool. I mean, I did like some of them, especially this one. I really felt that it came out pretty clean, and you could see the landscape mode just works really, really well. And since this camera is doing everything on its own, it does tend to overexpose some of the highlights or some of the whites in the images, like some of the images you saw in the video. But overall, would I recommend this camera? I definitely would recommend this camera from a creative's perspective. Maybe you want to create a fun, I don't know, some kind of fun little project where you want to use this camera. I think that would work fine. Or maybe a camera that you want to capture just day-to-day stuff, maybe going on a walk to, I don't know, your favorite bookstore or your coffee shop that you go to, and just kind of snap pictures on the way and just have this very interesting portfolio of images that you've taken. But yeah, I recommend it. Check the link below if you're interested in this camera. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe. There's plenty of content coming soon, and I have been getting asked about the half-frame camera that I have, which is the the Olympus Pen EE. That video is still in the work. Camera's been a little fidgety, so I've been trying to get that fixed, and hopefully soon that one gets released. So thank you so much for sticking around. Be sure to like and subscribe and share this with people that want to know about film, or maybe somebody that wants to get this camera, and I'll see you in the next episode. See ya.